Lesson 77, we get into solving inequalities with negative coefficients. Now, Lesson 77 is very similar to what we've always been doing with inequalities. We still want to solve for x, but now we want to change one thing when it comes to multiplying and dividing by a negative number. So let's go ahead and start with example 1. It says to solve negative 2x is greater than 4. I'm going to start by copying down the problem. Negative 2x is greater than 4. And as always, if we were to take a look at our regular problem, negative 2x is equal to 4, we would solve x by dividing both sides by negative 2. Now, nothing changes. That's exactly what we want to do here with our inequality. We want to divide both sides by negative 2. And in doing so, we get x is greater than negative 2. But the thing with today's lesson is, and this is the key part, it is no longer x is greater than negative 2, but now x is less than negative 2. Now, why do we say x is less than negative 2? It's because we introduced the new property which states anytime we multiply or divide by a negative number, it flips the sign. Okay? So all it does is flip the sign. If we go ahead and take a look at example 2, here it says solve and graph 3x minus 10 is greater than 8. Again, I'm going to start by copying the problem down. And just like we would solve if it's an equal sign, the first thing that we want to do is add 10 to both sides. Because again, inverse order of operations, we want to go in reverse order. So there's my t. My 10s cancel each other out on the left-hand side, leaving me with just negative 3x. And on the right-hand side, 8 plus 10 is going to give me 18. And now again, last thing that we need to do is divide both sides by negative 3. And when we divide by our negative 3, again, there was our negative. So when we divide, we got to flip the sign. It is no longer greater than, it is now less than negative 6. Now, if we wanted to, we could graph this. Nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and do so. If I can shrink this down, we start by drawing our number line. In the middle, again, we always want to put the number that we ended up kind of solving for, which is negative 6. On the left-hand side is going to be negative 7, and on the right-hand side is negative 5, because again, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, we're slowly working towards 0, and then we're also working towards our positive, so we know we're right. Now, open circle, because it is just less than, and all the x's that are less than negative 6, we are going to the left. So when it says solve, here's the first part. When it says graph, there's our graph. Lastly, we have solve and graph negative 5 times the quantity x minus 3 is greater than 5 times the quantity x minus 3. Again, let's go ahead and start by copying down the problem. Negative 5 x minus 3 is greater than 5 times the quantity x minus 3. Now, when we solve these, what we want to do is we want to start on one side of the inequality and see if we can simplify. And as you notice, we can expand. So when we expand, we get negative 5. Now, from here, what we want to do is we want to get our variables on one side of the equation, or the inequality, and our constants over on the other side. So, what I want to do first is I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Now, you don't have to, but I'm going to get my numbers on the left-hand side and my variables on the right. So let's go ahead and finish this. We got 5x. 15 plus 15 is going to get us 30. And on the right-hand side, we get 5x. So now that we have just 30 on the left-hand side with no variable, now what we want to do is get that negative 5x over to the right-hand side. We want to get the x over to the other side. So a negative 5 indicates the opposite is going to be plus 5x. So if we add 5x to both sides, notice negative 5x plus 5x, those cancel each other out. That's how we know we've done it correctly. 30 is greater than 5x plus 5x is 10x. And if we go ahead and finish, we want to divide both sides by 10. We get 3 is greater than x. Now, another way you could write that if you want to is going to be x is less than 3. And lastly, if we want to go ahead and graph it, let's go ahead and do so. Here's our line. There's 3, there's 4, there's 2. It's going to be an open circle at 3. And again, we want all x's less than 3 going to the left. Notice when I changed from this form to this form, notice my alligator was eating the 3, and when I finished, it was still eating the 3, the alligator or the Pac-Man, whichever you prefer. But notice we didn't change anything. All we did was change the order. We still got the sign eating the same value. So that's how we know we kept that straight. Okay? To go ahead, what I want you guys to do on your own, from the practice set, I want you to go ahead and complete problems B and C. And then your homework for tomorrow will be lesson 77, problems 1 through 25. We will go over problems B and C when you come back on Wednesday. Good luck.